Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I'm here to explain the difference because I find a lot of people aren't quite sure what the differences are between service dogs, assistance dogs, and therapy dogs. There's also emotional support dogs, but those are a little easier to understand. So I do have a massive list of tasks here, but I'm going to give you an example of a couple for each one. So service dogs are the ones that do work, literal work, meaning they're trained to be a police dog or they're trained as a search and rescue dog, which are typically the bigger St. Bernard dogs. Police dogs are typically German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, dogs like that. They're the ones that chase down criminals. They can bark and alert someone if somebody's getting away, that kind of thing. Assistance dogs are trained to do specific tasks. So, for example, guide dogs, where they're trained for blind people to help them cross roads and go places in the public, get things from their home, that kind of thing. So, opening doors, getting something from the fridge, turning lights on and off, that's something that they can do. They can also be trained for seizure alert dogs, which is quite difficult because typically when you're training them to do something, the stimulus has to be there. So you have to wait until somebody has a seizure to train them to do this. But they can alert a family member, protect their head, maybe put a blanket under them to make sure they don't swing into something, make sure they don't asphyxiate on air or vomit, so turn them over a little bit afterwards to make sure. Things like that. Emotional support dogs are for psychological disabilities. So when people have mental issues and they need someone to be there, typically for things like PTSD, a lot of veterans have emotional support dogs for afterwards. A lot of psychiatric patients have them as kind of very grounding if they forget where they are or they start panicking because something happened and they're not used to that in their environment. The emotional support dog is there to calm them down. I know after my accident, Kaya was definitely a version of an emotional support dog because she would not leave my side. She always made sure I was okay. If I was in pain, she was always there. They are emotional support dogs if they're officially licensed to be an emotional support dog. They're allowed in pet unfriendly housing. So ones where they say you can't have a pet, you can't bring animals in here, they are allowed in those places. They're also allowed in airplane cabins. While most dogs have to be crated in the cargo area, if it's a smaller dog, then they're usually allowed in the cabin anyway if they're in a carrier. And therapy dogs are the ones that visit hospitals and schools and senior homes because they are trained to bring joy to people. And dogs do that anyway. It's not really a new thing for them, but it's more to be gentle and let them be petted and deal with all the noises. There's actually certification tests you can do for that. It's similar to the good citizenship test where they have to not react to certain noises, not bark if strangers come up to them, that kind of thing. They're even allowed in courtrooms sometimes, depending on the circumstance. For example, if there's young children involved in the case and the children are stressed out, sometimes they're allowed to have a therapy dog there to bring down the emotions in the situation. So those are all the different jobs, but there's something, if people, for blind or deaf people, this is a really big deal. While they did install lights, they usually did have lights at crosswalks, but now some of them make sounds. So for people that are deaf, for people that are blind, they can hear the crosswalk and they know when it's safe to cross. But assistance dogs can even be trained to alert someone to allergens in their food. So for example, people with life-threatening peanut allergies, the dog can be specifically trained to smell out peanuts or other nuts in the person's food, which seems pretty crazy, but their sense of smell is almost 30,000 times better than ours, so it makes a lot of sense that way. They can be alerted to blood sugar drops, things like that. So for people that are diabetic, it can be a really big deal, especially if it's a more serious type. They can alert if somebody comes to the door, that kind of thing. To phone calls, if you drop an item, you can teach them to answer the door. They can assist with position changes. So if it's someone that has a physical disability, or they can't get themselves in and out of bed, or something like that, the dog can actually help you, usually bigger dogs in this case, but can help you roll over or shift your weight so you don't get bed sores. They can block from moving danger. So if something's coming through the air, they can catch it or block it so it doesn't hit the person. They can avoid moving objects. They can bring notes to people. They can call 911. They have dog-friendly phones now where you can train the dog to call someone or the police in an emergency. And that can obviously save a life. They can call the suicide hotline. They can carry a lot of things. So I've seen videos of golden retrievers bringing in groceries, that kind of thing. They can carry items upstairs. They can clean up trash and put it in a basket, help with laundry, pull it in and out. We're all sitting there thinking, going, wow, that would be really nice to have around. Clear a room to make sure there's nobody intruder in it. Close doors, that kind of thing. Crowd control. So if the person gets anxiety in crowds, they can circle it. They can drag heavy items. They can find a specific person. So if you're in a house with a disabled person and a therapy dog comes to find you, you know that something's wrong, and then you can go and find the person. They can find seats. They can find escalators and stairs. They can go find help, which is kind of the same idea. They can guide you to a specific location. So if you go, say you're a blind person and you go from your house to your work and back, but you stop at the grocery store on the way back, the dog can be trained to take you from your house to work, your work to the grocery store, and then your grocery store back to your house, and probably carry your groceries on the way home. They can interrupt harmful behavior. So if you're having a panic attack or a psychiatric episode and you start hitting yourself in the head, or repetitive behaviors, if you have OCD, that kind of thing, and you have to do the same thing over and over again, they can interrupt the cycle and help you ground back so you know what you're doing. Nightmare interruption can be a big one, especially for kids, or PTSD, if they have night terrors over and over and over again. Providing a distraction is always a good way. If something really scary is going on and the kids, or adults by all means, if they don't know what's going on, it can be a really calming effect because they know that they're safe if their therapy dog is there. This is a big list. Retrieving a lot of items. So say you're ready to go outside and you can train your dog to bring you your shoes. You can put them on. You can get them to bring you water if you have to take medication. Get something from the shelf at the grocery store and put it in your cart. Turn lights on and off is a pretty normal one. Wake people up. A lot of times people don't like alarms, and a lot of normal people don't like alarms either. So to have somebody to make sure that you get up, and a lot of dogs that get at this on their own. Kaya comes in my room about 10-15 minutes before her breakfast time to wake me up in case I'm not up, because she has to have her breakfast at the right time. Wheelchair pulling can also be trained to do. but usually it depends on what the specific person needs in terms of what tasks have to be done, but each one has to be individually trained. And a lot of opening and closing, anything with handles, they usually tie a rope or a piece of cloth around so the dog can pull on that to open it, just because it's easier. But there are a lot of interesting things you can train your dog to do. I'm still working on getting Kai to clean up after herself and put her toys away, but she has so many toys that it's hard to train for each individual item. Because if I say toy, she just grabs whatever's closest. So to get her to put them all away is a different task. But if you have any questions about service dogs, assistance dogs, emotional support dogs, or therapy dogs, feel free to shoot me a message. I don't know what the video is going to be about next week, but I hope you're had an awesome, loving weekend. I know it was really, really hot, but hopefully it's going to cool down this week so we can get the dogs back out there without sweltering. I think Kaya made it about 15 minutes yesterday on our walk early in the morning because it's too hot for her. But stay safe, stay hydrated, and I will see you next week.